You're watching Talking Points, a focus on the political scene in Lubbock and across the South Plains. Sponsored by Capital Mortgage Services.
Welcome back to the show. Here's a look at some of the political headlines of the past week. Well, it's the last thing we're thinking of right now in the summer. Traveling in the freezing winter weather will soon be a whole lot easier. The Federal Aviation Administration is granting the airport more than $761,000 to use to buy snow removal equipment. The goal being fewer delays during winter storms. That's something we can all get behind, I think. 264 airports nationwide are getting money. Another in our region, the Lee County Regional Airport in Hobbs, New Mexico. And Senator John Cornyn announces a nearly $1 million federal grant for Texas Tech for students interested in science, technology, engineering, and math, otherwise known as STEM. That money is coming through the National Science Foundation. Cornyn worked on the grant for the university with some professors and says students who pursue these careers will be in high demand once they graduate with one of these degrees. Well, the future of health care headed back to court this week with a panel of 3 federal judges in New Orleans hearing arguments from a Texas case on whether the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare, is constitutional. During 90 minutes of testimony, 2 of the judges really seemed likely to uphold the lower court ruling that the act is unconstitutional. But the appellate court could take months to decide. KMAC's Wes Rappaport highlights the potential impact on Texans.
Healthcare costs continue to be an issue, and a lot of people in Texas are still uninsured.
Part of the work Corey Hattemer does at Foundation Communities is sign Texans up for health insurance. The nonpartisan nonprofit has enrolled nearly 30,000 people through the healthcare marketplace in the last 5 years.
We've seen what a difference it can make for people, both in terms of having access to health insurance when they wouldn't otherwise, but also in terms of having protections.
Lawyers with the Texas Public Policy Foundation will deliver arguments in federal court Tuesday, representing 2 people who face higher health care costs through the ACA.
There is an injury to people like our clients. Fairly healthy people who may have to delay other purchases or take longer to save, to save money or to get ahead in their own businesses because of the burden of this cost.
Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton is leading a multi-state effort to repeal the Affordable Care Act, but the state, which is behind this federal lawsuit, hasn't come up with a plan to replace it.
Legislators did nothing to address our worst in the nation uninsured rate. No bills passed. And now on top of that, our state attorney general is suing to overturn the Affordable Care Act, which would leave 1.7 million Texans uninsured. It would take their health coverage away.
With some uncertainty about the future of health care, Hattemer says nonprofits like hers will still be with Texans each step of the way.
We know that we'll be here regardless of what happens, and we'll help people navigate the healthcare landscape regardless.
In Austin, Wes Rappaport, KMAC News.
Wes, thank you. Also this week, the Department of Homeland Security is asking the Pentagon to send more Texas National Guard troops to the U.S.-Mexico border. Our Anna Wernicke reports this would bring the total number of Guard troops assisting Customs and Border Protection to nearly 3,000.
The Department of Homeland Security wants the Pentagon to send 1,000 Texas National Guard troops to the U.S.-Mexico border.
More bodies can help if they were allowed to do apprehensions.
Texas Republican Congressman Will Hurd says while he welcomes the extra manpower,
unfortunately, many of these folks in National Guard can't do the functions that we need in order to deal with the humanitarian crisis. And that's ultimately processing people.
The National Guard troops can assist with maintenance and construction, and they can work at the ports of entry to improve the flow of commercial traffic crossing the border into the U.S. But they are not allowed to interact with migrants.
So they go to the border, maybe they do some cooking, some tire repair, patch some fences.
Texas Democratic Congressman Lloyd Doggett says it's a waste of resources.
I think they will be of little use there, and they're taken away from their families and their businesses when they may be needed for a military purpose in the future.
But Pennsylvania Republican Congressman John Joyce says Border Patrol needs help.
This is the chance for the National Guard to step up and participate in protecting our country.
Joyce says he wants his governor and the Pentagon to send members of the Pennsylvania National Guard to the southern border.
I've asked the Border Patrol, can you benefit by having additional guard at the border? And the response was simple. They said, absolutely.
Right now, there are 1,900 National Guard men and women deployed at the U.S.-Mexico border. In Washington, I'm Anna Wernicke.
Well, now let's spend 5 good minutes with James Dickey. He is the chair of the Texas Republican Party. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're making your way through West Texas here this week. So talk to me a little bit about what you're going to be talking about with party members here in the west side of the state.
Well, the first thing I'm telling folks out here in West Texas is thank you guys. You saved Senator Cruz. West Texas really made the difference in our election results in November. And so the challenge I now face is to make sure that while you guys have been amazing, that we get the other folks to pick up the slack and improve the game. And so I've got a presentation. It's called Red Alert Texas. I want to be sure that everyone who cares about making sure that we continue to have the kind of successful business climate and career environment and occupational growth that we've had, if you want to have that you've got a chance to have that continuing.
A traditionally Republican state, there's been a lot of talk about Texas turning blue or that Texas may be up for grabs in 2020. What is your response when you hear that?
Sure. Well, first of all, most people have very short historical memory. So it was only 2003 when Republicans even took over the Texas House. So it's not like we've been Republican forever. It just felt like it because it's been such an amazing wave. And as recently as 2008, we only had a 1-seat majority in the Texas House. So we know that we have to continually earn the right to continue to lead, that we have to continue to earn the votes of everyone in Texas. And we do not take that lightly. We have been fighting for that. And so we are looking to win back some of those House seats that we lost last session and make sure that we do not lose more so that we can move forward into 2020 with, once again, a president and a Senate and a House and Texas House that really leads and provides an environment that makes the amazing Texas economy possible.
Question for you that we get a lot of folks feeling like the parties are more divided than ever. As a party leader, what's
Sure.
your thought on that? How can we make meaningful change with the two parties seeming so far away?
Yeah, Pew Research actually has done a lot of really interesting, and they're a nonpartisan group. They've done a lot of really interesting research on this that has shown that the Democrat Party has dashed far left over the last few years. And yeah, the center of the Republican Party has moved a small amount to the right, but it's nothing compared to the movement on the Democrat side. And anyone who from West Texas who watches the Democrat presidential debates, you can see it for yourself. I mean, it is shocking the extreme notions that they're presenting. And so the thing that I really try to do within the party is remind everybody that politics is a team sport, that in order to win an election, that in order to win on advancing legislation, I mean, our founders, thank God, put in a system that makes it hard to pass things. So you have to really put a team together to get things through the legislature. And your West Texas Republican delegation is an amazing delegation, and they accomplished a lot during this legislative session. We need to focus on the things we agree on, the things that can really make Texas better for ourselves, for our friends, for our neighbors, for their kids, their grandkids, for all our future.
You mentioned there the party only moving slightly to the left. I think a lot of people, though, in the last election, seeing some of the things that President Trump was running on, maybe not so much agreeing. Do you see any splintering within the Republican Party, or do you feel like they're coming together more than ever?
Oh, I think no question. President Trump, in his administration, he has implemented policies that we have wanted to see, and that Republicans and Democrats both had promised for decades. I mean, moving the embassy to Israel, moving that to Jerusalem. Presidents in both parties had been promising that for 30 years, and he just finally got it done. We've seen a lot of that, and I think I'm looking forward to this election, him being able to be on the ballot and show his own record. Well, last time we kind of had the worst of both worlds. People could talk about what they didn't like, but he wasn't running. And the Republican National Committee has really stepped up. We've been talking to them about the need to invest in Texas, the need not to take Texas for granted, and the Trump campaign, the Republican National Committee, they put their very first hire nationwide was in Texas as the new state director here.
Very important state. You've got a lot of responsibility in your hands. A national issue, though, with other real implications right here in our state, the immigration debate down at the border.
Absolutely.
A lot of lawmakers recently making claims about the conditions in the facilities down there being inhumane. Have you seen from your party any change in their stance on what's going on down at the border?
I mean, no question, all of the border facilities are swamped. I mean, when we've gone, you can look at all the charts, trying to accommodate 100 to 130,000, 140,000 new folks, and there's been a dramatic change just in the last couple of years, where now it's people not trying to evade capture, but trying to ask for capture so that they can then be part of an asylum catch and release. Well, that is absolutely broken. Democrats in Congress have entirely refused to do anything about fixing our broken asylum system. But anyone who's paying any attention knows that that is totally a travesty, and it's a travesty of Congress's own making. If the federal government is for anything, it is for protecting our country and handling our borders. And the Congress, the House has entirely failed to address that. And I hope that that becomes a big issue in this election, and I hope that finally Congress does something about it.
Yeah, you mentioned them doing something about it. What is the hope of the party? Any, hard and fast plans that y'all are presenting or backing as we head into a decision, hopefully, there?
Well, for the state party, we have our platform, and it lays out the major principles that we're in favor of, which are always opportunity, freedom, liberty, safety. Those are always the things that we push for. In this case, as the state Republican Party chair, immigration is absolutely a federal issue. We want, I'm grateful that our governor and our legislature has stepped up and devoted significant amounts of resources to make sure that Texas citizens don't face an even bigger issue than they otherwise would. But it really is incumbent on the federal government to fix this.
All right, James Dickey, thank you so much for stopping by today.
Thank you.
Meanwhile, the third Democratic presidential debate will be held right here in Texas, down in Houston on September 12th and 13th. The chair of the DNC says as the nation's most diverse city, Houston is the perfect spot for a debate. The chair of the state party, Gilberto Hinojosa, says in part, Texas is a battleground state, period. We know that when Texas goes blue, the White House will follow. He goes on, Texas Democrats have officially arrived and, quote, we're here to stay. We've extended an invitation for an interview to the chairman there for him to come here on Talking Points. They say they're going to stop by the next time they come through Lubbock.